Hi, my name is Sophia Talley, and I have officially snapped. And I knit, yes, KNIT. I knit my own Ugg boots, and I have absolutely no regrets. Now, this project did not just pop out of nowhere. It has taken 10 years of capitalism, of suffering through capitalism, to create my own pair of Uggs. And a lot has happened. I've spent so much money in coming to this place of finding a shoe that I can wear every day without it being absolutely positively destroyed by a drizzle of water. And I've come so far. I made the shoe of my dreams, and I'm excited to share this with you guys today. Before we get any further, I just want to add that I have been kicked out of the Creator Fund here on YouTube, and the AI bot is not letting me back in. So please like and subscribe and follow if you want to see more of me, because I spent a lot of money on this video, but that's okay. That's okay, because I came up with something that I'm going to use every single day. And so let's get going. Yes, I have been suffering from the effects of late stage capitalism. To put it bluntly, I love to wear slippers inside the house. This is my job. I work from home. I write knitting books. I write knitting patterns. And my office is cold. But lately, I've noticed as a consumer, a lot of the products in the store, the price has went up and the quality is literally like non-existent. And at this point, I've already bought a pair of Uggs, and I bought these Uggs to do quick things around outside the house, get my kid on the bus. And within 1 month of owning these Uggs, and yes, I did spray them with that spray you use to protect it from water. Within 1 month, these Uggs look like they've been to war and back. These Uggs look like they went to school, they went to college, they look like they enlisted in the army. They look like they just came back and are back on leave. My Uggs are not doing great. If a little bit of water drizzles on them, that's it. There's going to be a stain on them that you have to brush out and clean out. And that maintenance wasn't quite there when I bought Uggs. I bought my first pair when I was 15, and they lasted until I was 25. My mom and I shared one pair of Uggs for 10 years. We sprayed them every season, and they looked great. And so seeing my Uggs only last a month absolutely positively radicalized me. It made me realize I can spend $200 on a pair of shoes and get only one season wear out of it. And honestly, that's crazy. And so I did some research, and I found out that Uggs became popular in Australia with surfer culture. But as someone that did quite a bit of content on indigenous culture, I've come to realize that Uggs look very similar to mucklucks worn by indigenous Arctic peoples. They look so similar, in fact, that I bought a pair of mucklucks from a brand that was indigenous founded, employ a lot of indigenous makers and artists, and they work within the community to do really great things. But this brand is called Manitoba. I bought a pair of mucklucks, and they wear almost exactly like my Uggs, but just made better. Upon realizing that all I needed was a pair of mucklucks, I can make those. I can make those. And so I gathered my materials, and I had a budget of $50. And even that was a little steep because I'm already, in the hole with two boots. As much as I love my mucklucks, I can't wear them inside. They're outdoor winter shoes. They're waterproof. They're made out of leather. They're great for ice and snow. I don't wear them inside for that reason, because they're outside shoes. I need shoes I can strictly wear inside that will last and that I don't have to throw out every couple of months and add to the pile of plastic that we are dealing with right now as, a society. And so my budget was $50. And with $50, I bought roughly $40 worth of yarn from Holby, and I bought their Snowstorm. And I picked this yarn because I knew I wanted to make a felted slipper type of boot. and I knew that I needed a roving style raw wool. And if you, for some crazy reason, decide to knit your own pair of Uggs, I highly recommend that you do the same thing. Pick a roving or something where the listing of the item, so when you go to the shop listing says that this can be felted with. Okay, so I went with Hobie because I do love their products. I use their products all the time. I work with them, but however, I use my own money for this Hobie, just letting you know. And I bought I bought a ton of yarn. Like I bought they were having a 50% off sale, so I was able to get like 10 skeins of yarn, something like that. And also at this point, I started to hunt for patterns because look, I make patterns for a living. I'm not making no more. Okay, at this point when I'm knitting this, it was in between Christmas and New Year. I was not making a pattern during my time off. So I was hunkering down for a long Ravelry search when I realized I already bought a pattern. I purchased back in 2020 the Moonkoosa boot pattern by, I think they're called Owl City Knits, and the pattern is stunning. I only used it once and I didn't get gauge and I didn't follow directions, so my slipper came out horribly. But it's a great pattern if you follow the directions. Fancy that. And so I already knew because that pattern works. I just wasn't, listening to the pattern. I knew I can probably have at least a felted boot. And I knew then I had to make that boot more like my Ugg and my mukluks. So let's see how I did that. So the first thing I did was knit the boots, and I didn't make any pattern modifications whatsoever because I was scared. Then I felted the boots in the washing machine and in my bathtub as instructed. When they were still wet, I stuffed them with paper towel and I let them dry overnight in front of my box fan. Here I am removing the paper towel because I will be reusing this because I think I used about $15 worth of paper towel to stuff these bad boys. And yeah, I'm not wasting that in this economy, all right? And I am very happy with how they felted, though I am not the best felter. And so there are spots with holes in it. And I will show you how I fixed that. And then I forgot to weave in my ends. So here I am clipping them out now. A little bit too late, but that's okay. The great thing when you're felting is that these little nubs that are still attached to the boot will actually felt into the fabric on their own with wear. I've been wearing these boots all day now and I've yet to feel them. So, I think they already started felting in there with my natural, foot sweat, which is kind of gross, but yay, science. And here I am still clipping ends, making sure that everything is looking nice and neat on the inside. And then these are the fleece inserts that I bought. And I got these off of Amazon. I do not recommend. These are supposed to be a women's 7, and they are quite narrow and long for a US women's 7. So I don't really recommend these. They are 100% wool. I can tell by the smell and texture. And look, this is where my felting needs some work. There is a fat hole in there, and that's just from where I weaved in my ends in my knitting. So it just created a bit of a hole, and that's user error. And I will fix that later. But for now, I need to work on making these durable for household use. I'm looking at these soles and I come to realize I have a pair of sandals that I got last summer and they hurt my feet because there's not enough strap support. But the actual outer sole is so durable, as you can see from the bottom, perfect when I'm mopping the floors, cleaning the house. And so I decided to, and this kind of pained me, cut the straps off of these sandals. I just bought them last year. Oh no. But they hurt because the straps are too stretchy and they don't support my foot enough. And so those are the straps, and I'm saving those for later. Here I'm trying to remove the straps even more with pliers, and it's not working. Those bad boys are glued in there. So I decided to just give up on that pretty quickly. And I decided to just trim them up with scissors instead because this is obviously not working. And I just trimmed them up as well as I can. I couldn't completely remove them because these are pretty much like super glued in there and I'd have to take the shoe apart. So we're going to try to cover it up later. But that's what that looks like, even though it's a little blurry. Nice camera work, Sophia. And here I am trying to make sure that it fits. And it looks like it fits. I mean, at this point, I probably should have did this before I cut up my shoe, but never too late to double check your work, and it seems like it fits perfectly. And now I'm trying to figure out how to attach it because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have this book that I got from Story, and this is another Story author, and yeah, these techniques were a little bit above my skill level, so I skipped that. I will link this below just in case you do want to make your own shoes and sandals. But I do have leather work thread and it came with a free needle, which is great. And I decided to do this off camera because I have no idea what I was doing, but I blanket stitched the sole of my sandal to the boot, and this took forever. And like about a full night and a half of stitching. But look how nice it is. It's so sturdy. I had to do it off camera, but I'm going to show you now how I did it. Here's the ends. I try to burn them. Don't do that. The whole thing is flammable. But I'm going to show you how I blanket stitched it into place. And I'm checking for size, even though at this point it doesn't matter. And I do want to note at this point, I did clean those soles because I did wear them last summer. So here I am matching up the heel, the center heel of my knitted boot to the heel of my outer sole. And I am first going to start a blanket stitch. I am not going to stitch through the sole just yet. I need to hide that knot in between the sole and the boot. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing. This is not a tutorial, so work this at your own risk. But I've been wearing these boots all day. I'm wearing them now and they're still holding up. So I am just going to do a basic blanket stitch. Start off by hiding the knot. And then I'm just going to very carefully work a blanket stitch through about the first centimeter of the sole. And look at that, I hurt my finger. So here, thimble activated. I'm going to work it through about a centimeter through the sole, and I'm going to work it through 2 layers of the boot heel to ensure that everything will stay in place. And at the same time, I have to make sure both heels are centered so that way nothing is crooked. And let me tell you, the first few stitches are very hard because you have nothing really to grip onto. But the more you go, the quicker it goes. So you'll see here, I start to speed up once I'm showing you my little war pain here of me absolutely hurt in my hand. But after a few stitches, and of course using my thimble, I was able to blanket stitch this. But it did take some time, I had to make sure my stitches were close together. I did them about a centimeter or less apart. And I went all the way around blanket stitching. Now, I will say here that my blanket stitching does not look great at first, but it does improve as you go. I think the fabric settles and folds into itself and hides the stitches. So it's, if you happen to be, working this method, which is not really a method, and you're like, man, this looks kind of ugly, it does settle in because the fabric folds into itself. So you really can't see a lot of the stitching. But now I can see this big hole. Yikes. So I will be fixing that. And again, that's just like stretched out stitches where I weaved in my yarn or didn't weave in my yarn. That's all user error and has nothing to do with the pattern or the techniques I use. I just don't know how to felt. So here I am just seaming that up, and I'm not really too worried about how that looks, simply because this will felt over time. And yes, that's Nymeria, my cat, who is not supposed to be there. In fact, if you see this part looking kind of crazy, it's because I'm distracted by a big cat butt in my face and putting cat hairs everywhere. But I'm trying to seam up these holes. And here I'm showing that, yes, she did put a cat hair in my cup of coffee. And I had to keep stopping because this cat just was on a death wish at this point. As I'm trying to do this, she's eating bamboo plant and I'm pulling it out of her mouth. Bamboo. And yeah, I'm wiping her spit off. It was horrible. So we both get cleaned up after that. She got kicked out. She's done. And I had to go back to fixing this whole problem. But I did want to show, look how much stitching I did, to the point where I put a hole right through my thimble. Absolutely crazy. Can you imagine if I hadn't used one? This wouldn't have happened. So here I am using nail glue. And because I have some ends, and I learned this one because I'm just starting to create leather handbags, and I found that if you use a little bit of glue to secure where you started your thread and stopped your thread, and you push that thread in between the sole and the foot, it just helps with the durability. I do knot the thread as well before I do this, so there is big fat knots in there as well, but the glue just makes me feel better because your girl is rough on her shoes. I'm going to be wearing these non-stop. Now it's time to insert those wool insoles. These are a bit long. I gave them a go, and I'm still trying to work where they don't slip and slide on the inside. So if anyone have any suggestions on how to keep insoles in place, please let me know. But for now, they are slipping and sliding, so I did take them out after I made this video. But they are so cozy and comfy. And here's the grand reveal. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe I made my own Uggs. They are so comfy. I could wear them indoor, outdoor if I want. They're so cute. And they fit like a glove. The more you wear them, the more they mold to your feet, because that's the beauty of wearing natural fibers. And I am in love. I cannot believe I made these. I highly recommend that you make yourself a pair, but just know that it is a bit of a time warp. You're going to be doing this forever. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you love these Uggs as much as I do, and I will be wearing these all day. And yep, I have more than one cat. Please help me. Bye.